Hey folks, on tonight's bike check, we're going to be checking out Robert's Santa Cruz 2017 Bronson CC. Hey folks, this is Gene from Regular Guy Mountain Biking, where we talk about all kinds of cool and fun things that have to do with mountain bikes, and of course, home of the Regular Guy Mountain Biking Bike Chat Show. In this bike check, we're going to be checking out the 2017 Santa Cruz Bronson CC, owned by my new friend Robert, who we have online tonight. Hello, Robert. How are you?
What's up, YouTube?
There we go. Now, just by that "What's up, YouTube," you know that guy's got to have personality, right? I mean, come on. He's oozing personality. He also happens to have I found out about Robert through his YouTube channel. Actually, I found out, Robert, you know what? I said I found out about your channel from a fellow subscriber, and it wasn't the person you mentioned. So it was another person that likes your channel and said, basically the guy said, I'll find it. I'll put up a picture of him when I edit this later on.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can know who he is because, you know, that's pretty cool of him. But he's like, you got to talk to this guy. He's got a great I forgot what he said, but major props to you and your channel. So
right on.
That's great. So a lot of people checking you out. So we're gonna be checking out Robert Santa Cruz Bronson. One of the reasons why I wanted to kind of jump on this video, besides becoming friends with a fellow YouTuber, is that not too long ago, I did a bike check with, I think it was Bruce, right? And make sure I have the right guy over here. I did a bunch of these over here right now.
Yeah, I do. I remember watching that one.
Yep, it was Bruce. And we took a look at his Bronson, and that was the Santa Cruz Bronson V1 Carbon 2014.
Yeah.
So one of the big things is this. I mean, you do a YouTube search for Santa Cruz Bronson, and it is like the holy grail of bikes over here. I mean, everyone's loving this thing, and I just wanted to try to get a little information. I don't have one, and now I'm going to be able to talk to two people that have one. So that's part of the review. Besides, again, like stoked about meeting somebody new, was the whole idea about talking about this bicycle that's getting such great reviews. So let's kind of step into that a little bit and talk about this bike and find out, you know, where you got it, what brought you to this bike, and what's so special about it.
I think I'll tell you what really started it is the same thing that caused your other guy to buy that bike. In 2014, was it 2013, 2014 when that bike first came out? Mm-hmm. And they were like the first one to do that, like tennis ball yellow, obnoxious color. And it was just like on every freaking web page that you read, mm-hmm. somebody was like talking about that bike. So if you're into riding bikes, I think you're a gadget guy, right? Gotcha. And so you're looking at it and you're like, man, I want to know what this thing's about. So I know you're back on the East Coast. Out here is a pretty prominent place to ride. It's called Downeyville. I'm sure you may be familiar.
Brian Kennedy's always talking about, everyone wants me to go to Downeyville. So yeah, Downeyville apparently is some mecca.
So Downeyville is basically this. It is a $15 shuttle ride, and they drive you up the top of a mountain, and you come down for 14 miles of downhill. Okay. And just like the biggest grin you can get.
That's nice. Yeah.
So it's legit. Uh-huh. So I end up going up there for my birthday right around that time that first one came out, okay. And I rented the original Bronson. And at the time, I've always been a guy just upgrading my bike like a regular dude. Mm-hmm. You know, got the bike that's 7-8 years old at the time, and I'm just putting new parts on it. Yeah. And the frame that I had was one that you could put 27.5 wheels on and get away with.
And I'm going to stop you right there. I was reading your notes. That was the Cannondale Prophet, right? That was the bike you had before, right? That was the bike that you kind of just kept on pumping cash and gadgets and upgrades into, right? Okay. Right.
So actually, one right there behind me.
Oh, so there you go.
So, anyways, whenever I rode that in Downeyville, it didn't blow me away the way that people were writing about it.
Okay.
And after the fact, I kind of was like, well, was that because I was just going downhill and you didn't really get a chance? Like, it's going to be good no matter what, mm-hmm. right? I could probably be on a Walmart bike and right. be just as happy as Phil, you know, bombing down that ski slope.
There you go. That guy's got balls, but that's a whole nother story. Right. Yeah.
Right. So after that, when I was expecting to rent that bike and be so in love with it that I wasn't going to be able to do anything but go home and buy it, right?
Okay.
And after that ride, it didn't blow me away to that point. I was like, man, it was a great bike, but I'm a dude with the budget, and if I'm going to buy a bike like that, I want to spend I want to get the bike. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to save all my Top Ramen money, and I'm going to spend $5, $6, $7 on a bike that will keep me happy for another 10 years, right?
Smart.
So it not doing that for me kind of it pumped the brakes a little bit. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll buy that dropper for my old bike instead. See if that makes me happy, Kind of like the puppy for the girlfriend that wants a baby.
There you go. Well, but it's an expensive investment. I hear where you're going. And unless you're floored, you're like, I don't really know, man. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, dude.
So the more I upgraded my bike, the more I kept feeling like this thing was not engineered for these 27.5 wheels.
Okay.
And when I first bought those 27.5 wheels for that bike, it was more of a let me see if I like this. Because I've been riding 26-inch wheels for a long time, and I've never had a problem with it.
They work. They're round. I mean, I know what you said. Yeah, when I went to 27.5, I'm like, what's the hype here? And what's a 29 about? Because I'm still on the same trails, and I did pretty good with the 26,
Right. And when I didn't do good, I just got better.
Exactly. Yeah, little practice,
Right.
So I think we're on the same page, totally.
So down the road, I'm starting that's starting to grind on my head. This bike is just not built for what I'm trying to make it do.
Right.
And at that point, I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? I do accept this wheel size is here. It's not a trend or a fad, and I like it. And I rode the 29ers, and the 29ers to me were like freight trains. And the 27.5 was still poppy and peppy and have a BMX background when I was younger. So for me, I was like, okay, I can actually rest my head on this wheel size. Now I want a bike that's built around it.
That makes sense.
Right?
That makes sense.
So then they came out with the new Bronson, and right around that same time that they were coming out with the new Bronson, I started getting my eyes on the Yeti SB5.
As you were saying over here in your notes, yeah, exactly.
Right. So I'm reading. I'm kind of like when you were a kid and you were paging through the Sears catalog and you was like all the things that you wanted.
Right.
That's how I was on the Yeti site and the Santa Cruz site like every other day.
Didn't know where to go.
Yeah. What's the head tube angle there again? What's it there? I'm going to read 65 more reviews and see which one I'm going to get, right? And at the end of the day, it really came down to was I knew that either one of those bikes was going to be better, and there were some things that I wanted for sure. I wanted internal cable routing because I think it cleans it up, makes it look pretty.
I agree.
I wanted to make sure the wheels were boost, both front and rear, because I know from a guy that was upgrading bikes over time, there's certain things like that you had to have.
Right.
Like 10 years ago, if you wanted to upgrade a bike for a long time, it had to have mounts for mechanical brakes, which later became hydraulic, right?
I hear you.
And if you didn't have that, you were ass out. You were either buying a new frame or buying a new fork.
Yep. You're right.
So there were some certain things where I'm like, okay, these are the things that I know I'm wanting.
Right.
And as long as I have a good base, then I can keep this bike for a long time again.
Yeah.
And I'm good.
Yeah.
So then it was just a matter of trying to find the right deal.
Right.
And like I talked to you about when we were on email, I'm pretty good at working Craigslist.
Apparently, yeah.
So ultimately, it was the frame with the internal routing and the boost on both sides on the Yeti just came out.
Okay.
So the only way I was going to get that was if I bought it new.
Right.
And I live in California. Sales tax here is ridiculous. So at the time I was planning, I'm going to drive up to Oregon because they don't have sales tax.
Right.
I'm going to buy that thing up there and save $1,000.
Sure. Yeah.
And come back down. And right about that time, though, I'm still watching the wallet because it's hard to be like, man, I'm going to spend $8,000 on a mountain bike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like some people are like, that's a car.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And the only way that I can justify that, Gene, is that I use the hell out of my bike.
That's
you know,
I
and
agree. I agree. I totally agree. And the stress relief, and
yeah,
we're both in the same industry. Computers really suck the life out of you, and you need the yin and the yang. This is definitely my yang. You know what I'm saying? I gotta
definitely.
flip around.
I mean, some guys buy a motorcycle, some guys buy a boat,
Right.
whatever. My thing is biking. I know I like it. I'm not going out and just buying this thing for like,
Right.
I think I might like to ride a bike.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not this bike. Yeah.
Like it is deep in
Right.
my blood at this point.
Right.
I've been doing it for a long time.
But you still
So-
you bought this thing off of Craigslist, and I still got to ask, man, how did you feel giving that guy that many thousands of dollars? Like, I'm always weary about spending that much money on someone's used bike. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, will you come? I mean, obviously,
I think what it came down to is over the time of building my old bike up, there was a time where I was like, you know what? I think I might like an extra large. So I went out and I bought another one that was extra large, the same bike, and just stripped all the parts off of it, powder coated the frame, put my stuff back on it,
Right.
put new stickers on it. And I'd done that a couple of times.
Okay.
So it was like, oh, I'm going to go back to the large. Oh, my son needs a bike. I got all these parts for this bike already.
Right.
I'll just go buy another one from some dude and throw all my good stuff on there, and we're good.
I got you.
So I had gone through that process a few times, and at the end of the day, there's a few things that you got to be looking for on buying a used bike. Is the frame good?
Yes.
Bottom line, yes. Okay. Is the fork good? If it's not, how much are you willing to spend to do a new one?
Agreed.
Is the rear shock good? Because those are your main components.
Agreed.
That are going to cost you some money.
Yep.
After that, it's all stuff that you break anyway,
Yeah.
or it wears out. So you kind of, in my head, you're coming into it with kind of that perspective of,
True.
hey, if the trailer's screwed up and I ride it for like 5 rides and it breaks, there's no difference between that and me buying a brand new Santa Cruz, going out on the trail, hitting a rock, and breaking my derailleur hanger on the first ride.
It's a good point. It's not going to be something that's like an electronic thing that's going to be, I can't get it fixed, I got to send it back to the dealer. I mean, for the most of this, most of the stuff. I mean, I guess I could take that back and say if the fork is screwed up or something. But for the most part, I totally agree with you. Parts are parts. Like there's only so many Shimano derailleurs. So the only thing that's proprietary is the frame. Even the shocks and the forks are generally shared among multiple companies. It's just the frame, and even that, it's there's nothing. As long as it's not cracked or anything, there's nothing you can't really fix.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go. So I mean, basically, I'll tell you. I mean, you saw the build.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll put the specs up.
Beautiful.
It's a $10,000 build. I mean, it's the.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that I could ask for that's not on that bike.
Right.
Yeah. So you see something like that on Craigslist, and you're like, first of all, it's January of 2017.
Right.
The bike's been out for a couple of months at that point.
Right.
Why the hell is somebody selling a $10,000 bike for $5,000?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're going through that in your head, but then there's the other part of you that's like, well, you know what? I've heard some guys get some good deals. I need to at least go play it out, because worst case scenario is I show up and I'm like, hey, there's something shady going on here. I'm not with it. Right.
Then you walk away. But if it's legit, why shouldn't you get a good deal?
So I started talking to this guy, and when I'm searching Craigslist, I'm not searching just the city I live in. I'm searching everywhere I'm willing to drive.
Yeah.
So if it's 12 hours away and I'm willing to drive that far to save $3,000 on a bike, then I'm going to do it.
It's in your
But
house,
I'm definitely not going to buy a bike from somebody that I can't be there physically in front of.
Right.
So, I'm looking at Pink Bike. I'm looking at Craigslist. I talked to the guy, and he's about 2 hours away from where I live.
Not bad.
And I'm like, all right, well, he seems pretty legit on the phone. He's not like sounding all shady. He knows what he's talking about bike wise. So it's not like he just lifted it off the back of some guy's car or something.
Right.
And so we meet up at this bike shop, and turns out dude works for it was like GoPro. He was a salesperson for like GoPro or Camelback or somebody like that. So he's got these connections.
That's how we got the bike. Okay.
And he's like, I buy a new bike every 6 months. I've had this thing for a couple of months. I want to try the new 5010, and here you go. And I'm assuming he's probably selling it to me either right at what he paid,
right,
or if it's barely under, it's barely under. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. That makes sense. And in that respect, everything pans out.
Right.
That is a legit. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So you in this case, you just happen to find a good deal. Now, a couple of things I want to ask you about, but these are going to be kind of quick because of what you said here. Top upgrades that you've done and top upgrades you want to do. When you're looking at a $10,000 build, shiny end caps for what's really left at that point where it's going to be a big lift because you bought the shiznig of bikes, right? I mean, this is it, right? This is it.
Yeah.
But that being said, maybe there is. Is there anything you did to it or want to do to it when you already got this amazing machine?
I think at that point, when you have a bike of that at that level, really what it's coming down to at that point is comfort.
Yeah.
Like on my first ride, my review of the bike, I'm bitching about little stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the seat. It sucks. My butt hurts.
Right.
I don't like these grips because I love Owry grips. They're bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of remind me of some bigger grips I used back in the. Do you remember the mushroom grips back in the BMX days?
Right.
Yeah, they were pretty thick though. You know, so I still have that in my head where I like that kind of bigger grip. And bike wise, the only thing out of the build that I have consistently been complaining about is the SRAM brakes. I've been an XT guy for a long time, and those things are just finicky. They are like squeaky, and they want to be caressed and played with. Even whenever I went to the bike shop the very first time, I went in there. Usually I do all my own maintenance because I don't like paying people. And basically, I went in there and I'm like, "Look, dude, what's the deal with these brakes?" And he's like, "It's SRAM, man. That's part of the game with them."
See, now I love mine. I'm looking at the pictures of your bike over here. Like, which ones did you get?
It's the Ultimate Guide, I think, is what it is.
Really? Okay, because I got the ones right underneath that, and see, I don't like the Shimano. I don't.
Really?
I think it's got a dead zone. It's just not. The modulation is not there, and I swear by my guides. That's why I was really expecting you to say the other way around.
But I think you're maybe just a little bit misunderstanding what I'm saying. The stopping power is great. Okay. I weigh like 270, dude. Okay. When I'm coming down the hill, those things are stopping a freaking freight train, right? Okay. So they are stopping. But as a maintenance thing, and especially as like a YouTuber, I'm pulling the brakes. If they're like whistling and chirping, I'm just thinking, oh, there goes that edit. And at this point, I haven't had the bike long enough to know. I don't even know if it's composite pads in there or if it's like the other material, whatever the heck it is, ceramic or something like that. So there still could be some playing around. This is just the only thing this is what I'm reaching for to complain about a $10,000 bike, right?
now what else I like this over here because I wanted to. Usually I try to finish these up with a. Who do you think would enjoy and like to ride this bike? And I like what you said over here because what you said is exactly what I did with my cousin. It's not exactly about the bike; it's what they're trying to do and what they want. So let me leave that for you to say. But I'm dead on. I think it's a great way of saying, is it the right bike for you? Because it's a $10,000 bike. So who would be riding this kind of bike?
I think what the best way to say it is, first of all, it's not the bike, it's the engine. So no matter what bike you buy, you're not going to go out there and be, the baddest rider in town. Right. And even if you're the baddest rider in town right now, you get this bike, it doesn't make you better. Right. So you have to be honest with yourself that way. And then also, like, what kind of trails am I going to ride? Yes. If you're riding in an area that's all mostly smooth, single track with a little bit of bumps here and there, you could buy a 6-inch bike, but it's not going to do anything except for cost you a lot of money. I agree. You could go out and buy the 29er with 120 millimeters of travel and have probably a better time, and then have some extra money, go vacation with your kids. Right.
Well, folks, look, here's the deal. I again met Robert via YouTube on his channel. It's Biker. I'm gonna give you a link, but it's Biker B1, but it's a 1 inside the Biker instead of an I. Is that correct? Robert?
Yeah, so I just call it Biker. It's the Biker channel.
Right.
And the tagline is B1, and it kind of just makes sense because B1 is how Biker's spelled.
There you go. And I'm going to make sure there's a link for it because there's a video I'm also going to link in here where he basically, it's beard his bike. Like drinking beer, beard his bike.
Beer your bike.
Beer your bike. Dude, it's so fun.
That's an important part.
It's a great video. It's funny. It's so worth the time to watch. It's what got me to his channel and made me say, you know what, I like this guy. I really, really want to talk to him. So there'll be a link to his channel and a link to that video, or you'll find it in there. There'll be links to get over there to Robert's channel. Well, if you have any questions for Robert, put him in the comments below. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them, right? Because
definitely.
Look, here's the deal, folks. One of the reasons why I do this is unless you just happen to be blessed with $10,000 that you just happens to renew all the time, I would think you'd want to ask someone who owns the bike some very pointed questions before you spend this kind of money. So please put your comments down below. Ask Robert about them. In the meantime, you know how we take care of these things. Subscribe to the channel if you wouldn't mind. Make sure you go and visit Robert's YouTube channel. Check out some of the other videos we got lined up for you over here. And as always, keep the party on the pedals, my friends. Thank you so much for watching tonight's video. Robert, thank you for being on the video tonight. I appreciate your time. And I guess we're going to catch you guys later on, right? Take it easy, my friend.
Hey, it only takes a bike to be a biker, so get out and be one.
Everybody's got a tagline. I love this. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.